The 3-2-5 formation is the most used attacking system at the highest level of modern football. It is one of the types of attacking positioning that Guardiola and Klopp, for example, have used repeatedly over several seasons. But it is important to say that the 3-2-5 is nothing more than an adaptation of other systems when the team pushes the opponent back while attacking. The 4-2-3-1, for instance, can take on this 3-2-5 shape in different ways. The same goes for the 4-3-3 and several other formations. In this video, we are going to take a quick look at how the 3-2-5 works and the logic behind why top football managers worldwide use this system repeatedly during the attacking phase. A specific aspect of the 3-2-5 is the back three, which provides a bit more width and circulation behind the first line of the opponent's defense. The middle line is slightly narrower and more focused in the center to create central overloads and leave the wide lanes freer. The more advanced line of 5 is the system's greatest asset. Most coaches divide the field into 5 vertical lanes: the wide lanes, the central lane, and the half spaces, which are the intermediate areas. In the 3-2-5, each player in this line of 5 occupies one of these lanes. The striker is positioned more centrally in the central lane, while faster, more agile players, or strong one-on-one players, are generally positioned in the wide lanes. More technical players, with good ball control and the ability to play in tight spaces, typically occupy the half spaces. Of course, there can be a lot of dynamism and positional rotations as the game progresses, but this is generally the logic. Now, we are going to speak in a highly generalized way, and it's not mandatory for every 3-2-5 to follow this logic, but it makes sense. This width in the back line of 3 players and the 2 more advanced players, usually behind the opponent's first defensive line, facilitates progression through the middle of the block. The back 3 allows one of the wider players to have the ball before the first line, giving them a bit more freedom. This player can, for instance, carry the ball slightly forward and make a diagonal pass to one of the midfielders, ensuring the midfielder doesn't receive the ball facing backward, which helps the play progress centrally. Another possibility is for this defender to find a direct pass to a player in the half space. Even if this player cannot turn and face forward, they have the option to lay the ball off to one of the midfielders. This central progression tends to narrow the defensive block, as opponents will likely try to press. This narrowing of the block favors entering the final third with passes to players in the wide lanes, since the opponent's compactness tends to leave them freer. In other words, this 3-2-5 attacking structure can facilitate central progression and create width in the final third. But obviously, if there is an opportunity to create a scoring chance near the goal, there's no need to play wide. Talking a bit more specifically about the wingers, the dominant feet of these more advanced players make a big difference. When these wide players have their dominant feet corresponding to the side they play on, for example, a right-footed player on the right, the tendency is for this player to drive more towards the byline and attempt a cross when facing duels with an opposing defender. On the other hand, when this player operates with an inverted foot, like a left footer on the right, their tendency is much more to destabilize by dribbling diagonally, ideally with the ability to cut either towards the byline for a pass into the box with their weaker foot, or towards the center for a pass or a shot. Take this goal by Manchester City against Leipzig in the 2023-24 Champions League, for instance. Here on the left is Doku, a right-footed player with great dribbling ability in one-on-one situations, playing with an inverted foot. Doku is a very skillful player, and since he has a high capacity to resolve plays individually, being able to take the play in any direction, the other City players simply step aside and wait for the solution Doku will come up with. When Doku makes the first dribble, he draws the attention of 3 Leipzig defenders, freeing up space for Alvarez, who can then participate more actively in the play. Alvarez then receives a simple pass from Doku and has time to adjust his body to shoot and score a fantastic goal. Here, we saw 2 key aspects that we mentioned earlier: the ability of the wide player, in this case Doku, to destabilize, and the ability of the half-space player, in this case Alvarez, to operate effectively in tight spaces. The way this player receives the ball can also vary, greatly changing the team's game dynamics. Of course, none of this is a rule, just a generalization, but a right-footed player on the right might be better utilized in this condition when receiving a through pass, relying much more on speed and timing to attack the space than on dribbling and flair. On the other hand, a player who plays with an inverted foot may receive many more balls to their feet, to attempt to destabilize plays through dribbling, supported by overlapping teammates to maintain the unpredictability of the play. In most cases, a player positioned on the wings with a foot corresponding to the side is a fullback advancing down the flank, but it can obviously also be a winger staying wide. Conversely, teams that prefer to have this wide player with an inverted foot almost always keep wingers wide and hold the fullbacks back, as it is much more common to see a right-footed left winger than a right-footed left fullback. The same goes for the right side. But the characteristics of the players occupying each position are the most important aspect in defining the team's dynamics. If this half-space player also has infiltrating characteristics, the wide player has the option to make a pass into the space for this player to advance, receive near the byline, and attempt backward passes. The use of fullbacks advancing to this region has been more common, mainly to attempt this type of play rather than having the fullback receive between the lines, which is uncharacteristic for many players in the fullback role. In this other City goal, in the same game against Leipzig, we see once again the team in a 3-2-5. Here, the winger receiving the ball is Bernardo Silva, who is left-footed, plays on the right, and has more characteristics of a midfielder, making a through pass to Rico Lewis, who in this game played as a midfielder but is also a right-back. So that number 82 could advance through the half space, reach the byline, and make a pass for Foden to finish into the goal. As we said, the 3-2-5 is a kind of derivation of another tactical system, but it is not the only system used for an attack that pushes the opponent back. There is also the 2-3-5, the 3-3-4, the 3-1-6, etc. The same system can switch to several of these offensive shapes as long as it is flexible. Perhaps the most flexible tactical formation in football is the 3-4-3. We've already talked about it here on the channel in this video that is appearing on your screen. Just click and watch it right now. Big hug and see you next time. Thank you.